There are 4 main ways that you can get grass to grow where it's not currently growing: seeding, sodding, plugging, fertilizer, and water. All right, so which of these should you do? Seed, plug, sod, or just fertilizer and water perhaps? That's going to come down to 4 different factors: your money per square foot, $ per square foot, your time, how big of a job are we talking about, and what level of difficulty are we talking about. My relative scale of rating here is the lower the number, the lower the money, the less amount of time. The smaller the job, the less difficulty. The higher the number, the more expensive, the more time. The bigger job, the more difficult. So it's just a rating system comparing, this one is the cheapest per square foot to fertilize and water. Plugging is your most expensive per square foot. But before we go into the money, let's just go ahead and jump down to job size, because that's really going to be the biggest determining factor. If you have and that's why I have an asterisk here by number 1. So when fertilizing and watering is appropriate for trying to get grass to grow in an area where grass isn't growing, when your job size is really small, that's when you're going to want to go with just fertilize and water. There's no need to spend money on sod, plug, seed. So the smaller the job, just warm season grasses, which is all the types of grass we have here in Mississippi. I've been really surprised at how many people we've had over the last couple years that are from other parts of the country, and they don't realize here in Mississippi all of our grasses are runners. They run along the ground. You don't have to seed. You can just put out fertilize and water for a really small job, and it's cheaper. It's the cheapest, the less amount of money, the least amount of time, and it's the least difficult thing to do. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's not talk about that anymore, because that's just the easy answer when you have a really small job. And let's say that the job size is less than 100 square feet. I'll go ahead and write that up here. 100 square feet, that was for your water and fertilizer. And if you're wondering well, what in the world is 100 square feet? 100 square feet, think of a 10-foot basketball goal by a 10-foot basketball goal on the ground. That's 100 square feet. 10 times 10 is 100. Anything bigger than that, we need to talk about this. I'm going to go through it real quick and let y'all ask questions if you have any questions. But just know that seeding is the least expensive per square foot of all these. But it's also the most difficult. That's why we have an asterisk here. And it takes the most time. So commercially, I can't tell you right now of one person that I know, and I know a lot of landscapers. I don't know of anybody that will say, yes, we'll go seed for somebody. Seeding is it's a difficult thing, and it takes a lot of time to do it, because you got to get the watering just right for seeding to work. So nobody really does that commercially. As a homeowner, you could do it. You just got to make sure that you keep it wet, not too wet, and not too dry, which is the key with all these things. But it's a lot trickier with seeding. So with plugging, you really only want to do it for small areas, perhaps small areas bigger than 100 square feet, or maybe even if it is 100 square feet or even 10 square feet, you can just get some plugs, and those will be growing points that it can fill in the rest of the way. If you just want to do something rather than nothing to get that spot to fill in quicker than just water and fertilize and put some plugs in the ground. And then sodding, that's what the vast majority of landscaping does. That's because I put a parentheses here on 3 because it can be a number 2 if it's not a very big job. The only time it's really more difficult than plugging is if it's a really big job, and you might have to do some soil amendments. If you have really low spots that are holding water, you're going to have to adjust the soil so you don't put sod in an area. One thing if we're talking about ways to fill in grass, you got to always wonder, why is grass not growing there? And let's not let history repeat itself. So you might have to amend the ground. That's the only reason. Otherwise, it's just as easy as plugging. They both have to do with just putting a piece of grass on the ground, basically. But sodding comes highly recommended. They take less time than seeding because you're basically just turning the water on a certain amount of time every day, but it's just not so crucial to get it so perfect as you do with watering. So I'm going to stop there and say, let us know if you have any questions. We could talk all day about this, but you ask us a question and then we'll get really some information of what you're looking for. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.